Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And it's time for another daily dose of dismal Disney, or rather Disney adjacent news. We're going to talk about this story that apparently some New York City Educrats, is that what they're calling them?
Apparently.
Educrats took their own kids to Disney on trips meant for homeless kids.
Yeah, so apparently there is some Department of Education people in trouble because they're alleging that they took their kids or grandkids on trips that were that was funded by the area, like funded by the city for homeless kids. And they instead took their kids.
Yeah, so that's pretty crap. We're gonna talk about that. I kind of wonder if this doesn't happen with different organizations that profess to send kids to Disney. But I can't prove it.
I know when it comes to like some things, they have like the village down there, so they actually have checks and balances.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was not a good thing.
Not a good thing. So we're this is not Disney's fault. To be very clear about that. But of course, Disney is going to be the headline because it always grabs attention. Right. There's a Disney scandal.
There were other places involved too, other trips.
Right.
It's not just one trip either, guys. It's several trips. Okay, so here's what happened. 6 Department of Education employees used forged permission slips. To take their own kids and grandchildren to Disney World and other city-funded trips meant for homeless students.
Oh, come on.
Investigators allege. So it's all alleged.
Well, they have
to make sure you say that to cover our butts.
They have to say that because if they say that it said it definitively happened, then it would be slander libel. They're just covering their butts, but they wouldn't have run with the story if.
Right. So this is in the New York Post, so we're getting it from there. But they said that the secret perks rob some of the city's most disadvantaged kids of a chance to enjoy the Magic Kingdom. A trip that costs $66,000 for 50 or so adults and kids, a staffer said. So some of the stuff's hearsay from other people. So just making sure I make that clear. And another multiple day trip in 2016 to 2019 to Washington, D.C., New Orleans, Boston, upstate Rocking Horse Ranch Resort, Frost Valley YMCA Campground, according to a newly released report by this investigation of city schools, which is right here. It's a commissioner investigation. So they said that this person, the Department of Education regional manager for the Queens Students in Temporary Housing, Linda Wilson, brought family members on the sponsored trips and allowed other STH employees to also bring family members as well, apparently. So they started this investigation in March 2019, and they got a complaint, which they redacted. And they reported that one of her responsibilities was planning and executing multiple out-of-town field trips for homeless students to serve as an enrichment opportunity or incentive for improving attendance or other academic achievements. Mm-hmm. And so reported that several staff members alleged to him that Wilson brought family members of her family on some of these trips at the expense of the program by forging permission slips in the names of the students that were supposed to go.
Right.
So, yeah. Now, schools do this. They do this thing where not big trips like this, but school districts will do like some kind of special field trip for kids that like come up with their grades or, are doing a lot of things. I personally had beef with our kids at school because our son, they had trips that would let certain kids go on. He should have gotten to go multiple times because he had straight A's and he was a good kid and he was always, trying his hardest. Never got to go once. Meanwhile, a bunch of people whose parents were named, if you know what I mean, or had money, or friends of the school, all got to go multiple times. To the place they complain, I have to go on another one. And there's kids like my son who should have gotten to go and never got a turn, or even more so the kids that maybe they had their C student. Maybe it's really hard for them and they brought their grade up to a B or an A and they worked their asses off. They should have got the opportunity to go, not the same richy rich kids or name kids in town over and over and over again. But I digress. Anyway, go ahead. Were you going to say something?
Oh, no, I'm just like... This is very, this is just ripe for the potential to abuse it, right? Like anytime you're giving away stuff like that, it's just like...
Yeah, and they're doing it because they were trying to give kids that would never have the opportunity, like homeless kids. They said there's quite a few homeless kids in the area. So she was the supervisor of the Department of Education, so the federal funded, students in temporary housing. Says it took her own 2 daughters on trips and encouraged colleagues to take their sons, daughters, and grandkids, but tried to cover up the shady practices when they started asking questions. Okay, so apparently that's one of the staffers.
We took a homeless kid with us, but it was mostly friends and family. You know.
Yeah, right. They did take a couple to make it look legit. But yeah, what happens here stays with us, Wilson allegedly told coworkers. She said everyone should stick to the same story that we did not take our children on a trip, an employee told the Post. She told us to lie to the investigators, according to the source.
Man, they're throwing her ass under the wheels of the bus.
Uh-huh. But interestingly enough, I don't think she's the one that got fired. She says she quit. Okay. Yeah, some homeless students attended the trips, the staffers' kids took up valuable spots. So some of the kids that were supposed to go did go. One Department of Education educator said they had to beg Wilson to allow him to add 2 of his students on a trip to Disney World, while Wilson and several staffers she supervised brought family members, according to the SCI. Taking money meant for homeless students is extremely inappropriate, said Naveed Hassan, a Manhattan public school parent and member of the city's panel for educational policy who advocates for students in need of housing. I am shocked. Aren't we all? I mean, I'm shocked, but not that shocked. But I am shocked that, it went on as long as it did. He said family members aren't supposed to even go on the trips. Even if the Department of Education is reimbursed their expenses, that's the rules. They're not allowed to go. So they used the names of homeless students, allegedly, to fabricate permission slips and forge parents' signatures on the paperwork, witnesses told investigators. Few of the homeless students listed on the paperwork actually attended the trips.
They probably voted, too.
The whistleblower, told the SCI. That's apparently Wilson there. They said at first she used a Department of Education contractor to book the transportation, hotels, food, and activities. The city paid for the trips with a $300,000 federal grant from the National Center for Homeless Education, meant to give kids enrichment and incentives to improve their attendance for academics. So, they're trying to offer these things because there's things that these kids would not even get to have. They're homeless kids that maybe if you work really hard and you try harder, that you get to have one of these special things. And that the point was to help them. If you work
hard enough, someday you can get ripped off by Disney.
If you work hard enough, maybe you can go on the trip to carry the teacher, the Department of Education's luggage, or you can,
kids are just like that.
Their kids' stuff.
Kids are like, that's it. Why bother? Life of crime it is, man. That's it. Well,
someone having life of crime, and it wasn't the homeless kids.
Yeah, right.
There you go. So they said in the last year, there's been a record 119,320 New York City students, roughly 1 in 9 kids enrolled in public schools, who have experienced homelessness. Now, sometimes homelessness, they said they are considered like temporary housing, living in a shelter, car, park, abandoned building. Sometimes if you're not living in your own home, you're living with family members, they'll count that as homelessness. It depends. So, they said most of the out-of-town trips included 4 to 6 staff members as chaperones and 1 or 2 buses for about 30 kids each. The buses alone cost about $2,700 each per trip, and those who went to Disney took the train. And they said Wilson would decide which staff members could attend a trip, assigning students to each staff member to chaperone, then replace spots assigned for those students with staff members' kids. The SCI said. The investigation said this. They did college trips, including Washington, D.C.'s Howard University in 2019. So homeless kids could tour campus, you want to go to school. You keep working so you can go to college. And they didn't, said she didn't contact the colleges to arrange visits.
Taxpayer money at work here, guys. This is what we pay taxes for. This
is 2019. Now the money's just going to bring in a bunch of people who weren't supposed to be here.
Right, but I'm just saying this is the kind of stuff that your money goes to fund. Right, we're under the impression that your taxes are paying for roads and clean water,
or actually
and
to help homeless
defense
kids,
and actual, maybe help homeless kids, sure, but like. Yeah, there's so much waste that they're just like, let's just spend a bunch of money and let these people steal it. And this is like a nothing burger compared to the amounts of money that government people are pilfering, in my opinion. But
yeah, pretty much.
Allegedly.
This is the Department of Education, which,
Allegedly.
I mean, the Department of Education is like a lot of schools are underfunded as it is. So they said on a 3-day trip purportedly to see a Syracuse University in June 2018, the Department of Education group only ate lunch on the campus, and then they went to Niagara Falls.
Oh, my God. And there she is on vacay, taking selfies.
I don't know. That's a different one. This is another aide that got in trouble. Took $2
Oh, they went to Wicked, too. Oh, my God.
But this person agreed to pay a fine and everything else. But, so then she was planning all these trips, and then she abruptly canceled a Philadelphia trip in 2018 when she was required to process a payment for the trip through the Department of Education instead of a contractor. And they said that her last salary was about $100,000, and she brought 1 or 2 of her daughters on trips.
Well, she can afford to go. Well, I don't know, even $100,000 a year. I don't know if you can afford to go to Disney anymore. But
so so other staffers are being accused of it. I'm not going to read all their names, but one took their daughters, one took another daughter, 2 took granddaughters, 2 took. They're all taking. Okay, one took sons, but most of them took daughters or granddaughters. The one person was fired and blamed Wilson, who said that, who's the supervisor. They said the supervisor in charge not only gave her permission, she encouraged it. And I had no reason to believe this was against the rules. So, I mean, to be fair, if you're being told, hey, you're allowed to, it's okay. Why would you think otherwise? You know what I mean?
yeah.
So after completing its probe in January of last year, the SCI recommended that David Banks terminate all 6 employees and require them to pay restitution, the amounts to be determined by the Department of Education.
Every time I hear restitution, I think about the Great Pumpkin. Where's my restitution?
Yeah, right. So they said that another teacher was fired also, records show. And in a settlement last month, the city conflict of interest boards, the one person admitted to using slots intended for homeless kids to take their daughters to see Wicked, which is the person above. And they agreed to pay the fine. And they said they slashed it from $3,000 to $1,200 because it was financial hardship for losing her job. But she again blamed it on, there's another person who blamed it on Wilson, saying that the staff were told that they could bring their family members.
Yeah.
So that's 2 of the staff saying that they were told this. When reached this week, Wilson denied that her daughters attended trips and she allowed staff to bring her children. She insisted that DOE's checks and balances would have prevented such abuses and called it a witch hunt. And she wasn't terminated. She retired.
Okay. I retired. That's bad. Bad employee.
So I'm like, the other people get fired and she got to retire. I don't know. She could be lying, but that'd be really crappy.
No, this is like in corporations when they fire people and they don't want to look bad. They're like, oh, we've parted ways. Oh, they've moved on to other things. I mean, it was like Cynthia Williams at Wizards of the Coast. Like, they totally fired her. But they made out like, oh, she's just moving on to other opportunities.
They do that all the time.
Yeah, because they don't want it to be like, oh, I couldn't get a job because I made headlines for getting thrown out my ass. The company doesn't want to be responsible for it. There's probably some kind of like non-disparagement or something in the employment contract. But like, yeah, if they're cons,
the investigation report, is listed out here. It's in the article in the New York Post, and things have been redacted for protection of people that weren't, named. But someone blew the whistle on them and told them, like, hey, they're taking trips from kids.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably would have blown the whistle on them too if I was involved, because I'd be like, these are meant for kids who don't have the opportunity. These are meant for kids that, this could, going to see a college campus might mean the difference between, them pushing harder to try to go do something else or to just accept what their fate is. And they're giving these trips to the people who already have money's kids.
And I'm
like, what the hell?
God, it's the cynic in me, and I hate to be cynical, but they're learning at a very young age how the world works, for better or for worse. That and that's really damn sad. I mean, it is.
Sounds pretty normal with most groups that receive grants and charity donations. Most of the best freebies are given to family members and friends, and the rest are given to the underprivileged.
Yeah.
So the people running these programs are vultures, are paid very well, and they're scrounging around for more.
Well, that's like even with student loans. We were talking about some of the different student loan organizations, and they're like living high on the hog. They're spending this money and going on these lavish vacations, whatever. And meanwhile, students are being crushed by debt. people are still in debt, 20, 30 years after they get out of school.
Oh, I mean, what made me mad too is like FIA, for example, that's a PA one. They got caught having these, like you said, these lavish parties.
Yes.
They were like whining and dining the rich people that might give them money and important people at the expense of, everybody else that was supposed to be paying back loans. And they demand you pay all this loan money back, or they garnish your wages, or, threaten legal action and all this crap. But they were out there wasting money. So then they got in trouble for it. It became like they had to revitalize the system or revamp it. But I can tell you for a fact that, this system is already so corrupt that you can pay back every penny you owe them 2 times over, and they'll still say you owe them 2 or 3 times what you already paid them. I mean, you could have taken out a $20,000 loan, and before you know it, you've paid back $40,000 and still owe them $80,000, and you're like, how the hell did this happen? It's all corrupt.
Yeah, and again, it's a lot of people that are involved in any branch of the government, right? Any branch, whether it's Department of Education or any government-funded whatever. I mean, I saw the waste. God, I do sound like Ron Swanson. I saw the waste firsthand when I worked for the one company that we did all government contracts, pretty much, and just the amounts of money they would spend on stupid shit. It's mind blowing. Like you would see because you could see some of this stuff come through, and then when you would look at the like we dealt a lot with the CFRs and the different bills that were being proposed and all that stuff, and it would come through and you're like, what the hell do they need this for? Why are they spending this much on,
Well, they're spending $5,000 on a toilet seat.
Yeah, because they're actually building a laser for a UFO.
But this one, it's like, so who gets charged with fraud and abuse of federal, state, or city funds? Who gets fined, fired, and loss of retirement benefits? Who goes to jail to serve a prison sentence for conspiracy, illegal expenditure of government money? Will they be charged with any crimes? No.
No, they won't be. They'll get a slap on the wrist. They'll retire. Oopsie doopsie. But they got free vacays out of it.
So anyway, I do think the way it sounds is that some people did not know that it wasn't okay, and they might have been, if true, they got caught up in it and then they're fired unfairly. But I don't know what to say about it. I mean, I think that you would think you'd look into it, or other people that work at the school would be like, you're not supposed to do that, and someone would question it. But that's just me.
Yeah, this person is Edmund Fitzgerald. Scroll down here a second. So there are some for whom bald-faced grand larceny is seen as entitlement. Why in the heck should taxpayer education dollars even be used for distant trips? Never mind for entertainment venues in the first place. That's even more offensive than the larceny. If you're dealing with homeless kids, and I'm not saying they should never be allowed to go to Disney, but I'm like, that's a lot of money that might be put to better use.
Yeah, but here's the thing though too. I know that a lot of schools, like they have bands and stuff that go. A lot of times they raise a lot of their money themselves, and sometimes the school pays for it. But they get to go down there for things. And I know parents, you can use Disney as an educational experience. You can get excusals for it because they consider it education based. And they have a lot of different opportunities down there too, like with tours, and there are academy and educational stuff down there. So it could have been tied to that. To be fair, I'll be your opposite.
Yeah.
I'll be your devil's advocate wet blanket.
I'm more the wet blanket. I don't know. I mean, I get it. I get it to a degree, but it's just like, there needs to be more oversight, because I'm like, they got away with it for years. Like, they didn't even look into it for like 4 or 5 years.
Well, they were working on it in 2019 when they found out about it, but
it took them 4 years to do anything
the
about
investigation.
It.
Yeah.
Like if this were a private company, well, unless it's a company like Disney or something, but like if somebody was stealing from the till and you found out, they would be terminated on the spot. You don't wait 4 years to get rid of them, and as they keep racking up free trips.
I mean, it's easy to look the other way. It depends. Like, this is Department of Education, so it's clear up at the top. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I don't know. Some people get away with more than others. But let's be honest here. It is what it is. I mean, your taxpayer money at work.
Yep. So we're gonna. I love this. It figures the fingerprints of the federal government are all over this. We're gonna wrap this up. Mm-hmm. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later.
Bye.
Join the reef. Go to clownfish-.com. That's clownfish-.com. You will get exclusive access to podcasts and videos and comic strips and more, as well as merch discounts. Check it out. If you were a member, you could get this t-shirt, this dismal t-shirt on our website. You'd get a 10% discount on that. You can also join in the community on clownfishminus.com. Thank you so much for the support.